World Endurance Championship that includes famous 24 hours of Le Mans is scripted these days. It is not real racing anymore. All of this is done by BOP, which means balance of performance. Balance of performance exists in racing for decades. In different shapes or forms, it is used to make gaps in race smaller. But what if the system on which BOP is implemented is not precisely defined? And what if it is corrupted? And what if by rules you're not allowed to comment on BOP even when your car is obviously slower than other cars because you have to race with more weight and less power? Before I go any further, you have to understand that power to weight ratio is ultimate indicator of car's performance. Yes, you can argue that other factors can and will impact car performance, but how much power you have to use to drag weight from A to B is most important factor on any racing car ever. WEC week before every race define how much your car must weigh and how much max power you can use. To make things more complicated with no good reason other than making much harder to track this BOP mess, WEC also define max power after 250 kph. One more thing is defined by BOP, and that is how much energy you can use before you have to go to pit stop. But this data is mostly used to balance out different weight of the cars, hybrids and engines without turbo. It is also thing almost impossible to completely understand without having data from teams. Different weight of the cars can be a factor even when the cars have same power to weight ratio, but I will talk about that at the end of the video. This is the third year of competition in this form. That means this is third year we have this variety of cars and third year of using BOP. We have cars that left championships and other teams joined later. We also have new BOP rules on max power over 250 kph from the middle of last year. The biggest problem I see with all of this is obvious favoritism toward one car. In 2024 that was a Porsche, in 2025 it is a Ferrari. But what about first year, 2023? Well, I spent hours of crunching data to learn what I always felt almost every time when I read bulletin with BOP figures before every race. It doesn't look fair to me. Let me explain my data. First of all, I used one car per manufacturer as an example. That means if Porsche has 1, 2, 3, Toyota 4 and 5 and Ferrari 6th place, I was measuring Porsche as 1, Toyota as 2, Ferrari as 3. I used power to weight ratio and also power to weight ratio over 250 kph when implemented. I used qualifying from previous race, results from previous race, standings after previous race and results from the last year race on the same track. So depending of race we have from 3 to 8 measuring points depending of the track and year. I also track 5 plus 2 major cars: Cadillac, Ferrari, Peugeot, Porsche and Toyota, with Alpine and BMW joining in 2024. It is fair to say that we cannot have full data for Alpine and BMW, although we can definitely compare their BOP status with the rest of the teams. You should know other cars were also participating in this championship in past 3 years, but their data are irrelevant for this analysis. After having values for power to weight ratio and relative rank of the BOP, I implemented multiplier for each of the maximum 8 categories. This multiplier means how much previous result should impact balance of performance. 0.25 for previous race qualification, 1 time for previous race result, 0.75 for standings after the last race and 0.75 from the last year race result on the same track. Because this championship is all about endurance and long run, it is fair to give more value to results in the race compared to qualification. When it comes to power to weight ratio over 250 kph, you should know that most of the tracks have speed over 250 around 10% of the lap, excluding Le Mans. I consider fair to power to weight ratio over 250 kph is valued fifth of the previous data. That means 0.05 multiplier for previous race qualification, 0.2 for previous race result, 0.50 for standings after last race and 0.15 for last year's race on the same track. Am I right with these numbers? Who knows? But at least I tried much more than WEC to make sense out of this BOP mess. Finally, what are my results? I divide results by year, 2023, 2024 and 2025 so far. How to look into these numbers? Smaller number means you received more push by BOP and opposite. That means if the team finished first, it will receive 1, and if it has 7 slower BOP, it will receive 7. On average, that is 4. If other team finished 7th and has most favorable BOP, it will receive 1, and on average, it will be also 4. In this example, we can say BOP is fair. So, smaller number means you are more favorable by BOP, and you should not compare numbers between years because we have variables regarding more teams and 250 kph rules and also races from last year. In 2023, we don't have enough data and BOP movements or changes. By numbers, Toyota was most favorable car, but the problem is Toyota won in this race everything but Le Mans. Toyota was constantly 4th out of 5 cars with much more weight than others. I can say that in 2023, Toyota should just have a little less power and Ferrari a little better BOP overall, but we can say 2023 was much more fair than other years, but also not year that is good example, because teams were new and also that BOP was fixed for half of the season with a late controversial change for Le Mans. Also, you should know Toyota was only old team worth mentioning in this year, and that is the reason why Toyota won almost everything and why their BOP score still looks good despite they were at the bottom of BOP favorism. 2024 is the year when we have better and whole picture. It was the year when the wins are obviously given to Porsche, because their BOP was years ahead of Toyota and Ferrari. We should ignore Cadillac because they are constantly pushed by organization to have better results, but they're just not delivering. We have half data for BMW and Alpine, and I was using 2 different measurements. I figured out that they have better opportunities than Ferrari and Toyota, but worse than Cadillac and Porsche. Data for Peugeot are strange, because they started from very bad BOP, because they changed the design of the car and finished season with very favorable figures. BOP for the Peugeot is not handled properly. Porsche was by far fastest car of the season, with Toyota managing to snatch manufacturer's title just in the last race. 2025 is in progress, but we already have a very clear picture. The way Porsche was pushed in 2024, Ferrari is favored by rules or bending the rules in 2025. You can see that on the track and in the standings. By contrast, Porsche car has most handicap. Looks like punishment for last year. I told you it is scripted. Toyota is again second worst, giving other manufacturers more chance to have better results, but protecting Ferrari because this year is designed for them. And before conclusion, let's touch on weight of the cars. If you have 2 cars with the same power to weight ratio, lighter car will have advantage in 95% of the racing situations. And Toyota have heavier car from the day one. So this data should include one more multiplier to show lighter car are more favorable than heavier car. And don't start with stories about car design and homologation and parts. Toyota is racing with weights every race, and if they are allowed to have 1030 kg cars, they will have, but they are not allowed. Heavy car is harder on tires, brakes, drivers, and it is one more way to give script guidance to this championship. And what is the point of all of this? You have to make fans happy. You have to make marketing departments of companies happy. But this is not real racing. Compared to WWE, where I have to watch end of the show to see the winner, in WEC I know the winner days before the race, when BOP bulletin is published. Is it championship more popular than few years ago? It is. But it is not a real racing. It is not fair racing. People think Porsche and Ferrari are makers of some spaceship and Toyota is manufacturer of Yaris. In real world, Toyota is biggest car company ever with massive motorsport history and probably most successful racing brand in the world in past decade. But casual fans cannot cope with that. It is not what they are expecting, and that is why FIA and WEC will provide script to make fans more comfortable with their beliefs. It is also a good way to share wins over years. 2023 and before Toyota, 2024 Porsche, 2025 Ferrari, 2026 looks like BMW to me. Everybody's happy, right? I don't know. If I want something scripted, I will watch movies. World Endurance Championship is scripted reality TV. And I'm totally against punishing success. What I have to tell to my children: look boys, you make biggest car company ever, amazing cars, you invest billions in motorsport, and in the end some paper will take victory from you because you're winning too much, because you're not making red cars. It is not healthy, it is not good, it is not good example for kids. Motorsport should only have two limitations: weight and displacement. Limiting fuel and spare parts is okay too. Everything besides that is agenda and it is not real racing.